real, but be able to
Yeah.
go in there and but also to Jeff Jarrett as well, to be able to kind of know that he can go in there and trust Kurt not to break him in half. You know what I mean? That's another testament to Kurt Angle's level of professionalism.
But that goes to the point that we were talking that Niall was talking about earlier on. Even the sad part about his TNA career was it was like the darkest period for him professionally, and he was still able to go in and be the professional, be the pro wrestler, rather than just someone going in there and it was even something that Benoit couldn't do in WCW. Where he would, obviously on Dark Side of the Ring, where he'd go in and take it out on Kevin Sullivan and stuff like that. It was just like.
I mean, if you really want to look at his professionalism, just look into the background of skipping the Hall of Fame ceremony, the Lou Tez one.
Really,
mean, that shows you the character of the man, really.
Wow.
Go ahead, fill us in on that one.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that. What?
He was pinned to enter the Hall of Fame, the Lou Tez one.
Right.
And he couldn't make it because he had already been booked, I think, to Impact tapings or TNA tapings or whatever it was. So he didn't show up. And then Gerald Briscoe proceeded to throw him under the bus all night at the ceremony. And then they actually auctioned off his Hall of Fame plaque on the night, and it sold for $250.
No way.
Yeah. So but it just goes to show you the professionalism of the man. He was not going to miss his TV tapings and stuff like that.
And the thing about it is, Kurt Angle, knowing the type of guy that he is, would not, for any other reason, would not have missed the chance to be inducted into a Lou Tez Hall of Fame.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but,
it was.
Unfortunately, when you.
One thing you can say about him, is everything is like he is the wrestler's wrestler, but he's also the wrestler's professional wrestler. No matter what was going on, he was there. He was arrested at one point. He was having stuff with, drug charges, all this kind of stuff, and he was still there, still wrestling, still working. Even to his, I remember when myself and my mate Gary were doing the desk at the time, we were looking, going, this guy's going to die in the ring. It got worrying at the point where towards the tail end of TNA, he was doing stuff where you're like, will he die in the ring? Because we were convinced for a while that's what was going to happen, and that's how far it went. He just couldn't stop. He just couldn't stop being that 100% character. And believe it or not, that's actually what got him fired from WWE in the first place with ECW. Vince was worried about him. He wasn't going to take time, and he got let go. Now it worked out well because we arguably we got some of his best work. I would say probably his best work, but it was also kind of worrying because this man was a liability near the end.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Kurt, having listened to some interviews of recent, it's a thing that he was built to be a machine. The guy is a machine. You know what I mean? So work ethic and cancelling work and not showing up doesn't come into that kind of guy's MA, or his MO, whatever you want to call it. He is just an absolute machine. And he's the type of guy, unfortunately, that you have to save them from themselves. You know what I mean?
That's it. And that's what I say.
Now, if he could, he would still be wrestling now, even though his body won't allow to.
Well, look, we talked. We talked about that with Benoit, where there's a lot of crossover, and that crossover of not being able to stop is, apt. But also, there's when he came back, I was just on that point you made, we'd still be doing it. When he came back and had that match with the Shield, like as a member of the Shield, I thought that was a joke. And there he is, and you're like, alright, Kurt must be good to go for a little while more, and then he was. I was shocked.
Well, do you remember, like a couple of months before that, he had a match with Cody on an indie show in the UK, and had done the moonsault off the cage as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this guy was still doing a moonsault off the cage while his legs were bent. Yeah. And can't walk properly. Yeah. But, again, someone like Kurt Angle is a very well-drilled machine.
Yeah.
Like I said, and I keep using the word machine, but that's exactly what it is.
There's no other way to describe it. It's inhuman. It's a natural how talented, but also how driven this man was. Like, again, he won the gold medal with a broken neck. That should, I know that was kind of drilled into the ground as like a gimmick, a joke, but no, that's the kind of person he was.
It was real.
It was real. It was real. You know, and even when it was wrestling, which isn't real, professional wrestling, which isn't real, it was still real to him. And we bought it. Yeah, exactly. We bought it. You know. So, but again, like that's one thing that, as great as it was and what he was able to do, I'm kind of glad he's not doing it anymore, because one person I was always worried about dying in the ring was Jeff Hardy or Kurt Angle. Jeff Hardy from a massive drug overdose before he went out with Victory Road. That was kind of where I was like, oh, here it is, it's going to happen. And it didn't, thankfully. But Kurt Angle doing something really stupid like that was always my fear watching a Kurt Angle match.
Do you know, I would have loved to see...
as well, isn't it? Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go on.
No, fire away, go on.
I was just going to say, I would have loved... I see small similarities between Angle and Cesaro, actually. And the way he tries to carry himself, Cesaro. I know he doesn't get a fucking look in here or there.
He doesn't get a look in.
Yeah. You know what I mean? But like he walks, he's that kind of stiff walk. Like I think he's a great worker, believable worker. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And I would have loved, even if they had had Angle with him instead of that Jason Jordan storyline. You know, someone like he could have done wonders for Cesaro. I think. You know.
Well, it was the time. If Cesaro if Cesaro had been in if Cesaro had been in TNA, I think he would have had a much better career than he did.
Yeah.
But at that time he was in Ring of Honor, so he had a pretty good career as it was. But I mean, like if he had had that same look as Angle, you know, because Angle came in the Attitude Era, made a name for himself, and then had that marketability going into TNA. It was just the look of the draw, guys. We've said this, you know. It's not the worker. It's usually bad booking. And in Cesaro's case, it's ferocious booking.
Well, I had to throw this in for the Shopkeeper. I know you're going to laugh at me here, but I just checked out there. One of the top three dream matches of all time this is obviously universal vote, is Kurt Angle and Bret Hart. That's a funny one.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure, Shopkeeper, I'm going to ask you this, Niall. No, a serious question. Yeah, like what would that match look like, in fairness?
The Bret and Kurt one.
Yeah, I mean that I think I'm read. Hang on, I'm going to read here. It's actually number 2 in one of this is just some site here, but over 2,000 votes on this site says that was one of their most requested dream matches of all time. But and it actually goes on, and it says because Kurt was asked the question in 2008. Who would be an opponent that he would love to wrestle, and his opponent was Bret. And I've actually heard him say that before, so that's...
Oh yeah, well I don't think it wouldn't have been any dissimilar really to some of his matches with Benoit, to be honest. I mean, you're talking about that caliber of worker. You know?
Fair enough.
It's not necessarily that I have an issue with Bret, it's an issue with Bret fans.
That's fair. That's very fair. I think
I have an issue with wrestling fans in general, so
yeah,
thanks, Ian.
That's because you spend too much time in a warehouse in Bray.
You're probably right. You dropped on the head many times.
We can't stop without talking about Kurt's induction into the Hall of Fame.
Very true. True.
There is one thing before that, though. In his greatest rivalries, you left out Jericho.
Yeah, I don't know why.
And I think that's unfair.
Yeah, I mean, you see, Niall has a problem with Jericho as well. Niall has a problem with people that don't sell T-shirts in his shop.
Listen, Jericho's banned me on Twitter because I gave them a bad review. I got over it. It's fine.
Jericho banned you?
There's the reason I didn't put Jericho in.
Okay, go on.
And the reason I didn't put Jericho in, is because I didn't want it to descend into another AEW podcast.
No, well, it can't. Yeah. It can't. Look, it can't. Jericho with Angle, I think he wouldn't have got over. He wouldn't have got, and the same with Benoit. Look, this is controversial, but in my opinion, he wouldn't have got over as successfully as he did in those early months without Jericho and Benoit. They really legitimized them.
Jericho had a big part in that. He did have a huge part in that. Jericho did, 100%.
And then in the early days, particularly, like if you watch his first 3 or 4 months, it's all Jericho, it's all Benoit, and it's all Angle.
And it was all a lot of the B shows and the Raw was Jericho, especially like you know what I mean. So it was those two definitely had a year.
I just had to say that before we kept going. Sorry for interrupting.
Well, Jericho is going to get his own show, I'm sure, on this. You know,
absolutely. And for the record, I am a Jericho fan.
Yeah.
He is a Jericho fan.
I just know.
I'm just telling Sly Diggs because you said Brett fans. There's 2 of them here, so the 2 Brett fans here were just curious to see what you meant. That's all.
I'm trying to get a rouse out of you.
I'm gonna take a deep breath and a sip of beer for the working man just to make sure.
Very fair.
Guys, there's a question. Sip of beer for the working man, as I said. What about some of Angle's work with Stone Cold? Actually, that's some of my favourite moments, both in the ring and out of the ring.
Yeah,
and I don't think it's mentioned enough, actually.
Well, I think it's more. Sorry, Darragh.
Sorry,
I think it was more known for the comedic stuff, really, wasn't it? More so.
Yeah, like
it's fantastic.
It's a different side, you know. It's the tail end of Austin's real heavy ring involvement, but it was also kind of playing to that comedic side that helped him push into the main event, because that was it. He had this bridge, the bridge from from Jericho Benoit into the main event was Stone Cold Steve Austin, ironically enough, and then he just kind of stayed there.
I think. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, sorry, just while it was on the tip of my tongue, some of I was watching a couple of matches there about 2 months ago. Some of the best work that Angle had with was also The Rock.
Oh yeah,
but they legitimately had some great matches.
Oh yeah, like the Rock, his match, particularly around that time. What was it for? Vengeance. That was it. The Vengeance December pay-per-view.
Yes,
around that time, like late 2001, was fantastic. It was like the highlight of the Invasion, really. Which you know what? That's a podcast in and of itself.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, like that was kind of like a highlight of it, where Angle was kind of being that kind of constant wrestler going against Austin and The Rock at different points. It was great.
And we definitely need to do an Invasion one, because that pay-per-view itself, you know, for whatever, you know, disagreements people will have, that was some good stuff on that, you know, and Kurt Angle in particular shone on that pay-per-view.
I really like that pay-per-view.
Yeah, me too.
I think the other thing you have to mention as well is that a man who's getting vilified at the moment, the impact that Vince had on his career, which was huge.
Oh yeah,
even within the storylines.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Like he was when Austin turned heel and they were doing more comedic stuff, but you know, Angle was his boy then. You know,
when is Vince not getting vilified? To be fair,
yeah. Poor old Vinnie Mac.
To be fair though, you know, he usually deserves it, but he deserves a lot more praise than he gets to.
He puts his hands out to be slapped, and he likes them being slapped. You know what I mean? So it's just the way it is. I mean, they're all conversations for a different time. But look, Vince is Vince, and at the end of the day, I'm going to say something nice about Vince here too. I mean, the thing is, you look at the guys that, you know, Vince has helped make stars. I never like using that word that he made stars, that he has given the opportunity to guys that have become stars.
Yeah.
They always appreciate him in the end. You know what I mean?
Well, look, here's the thing, right? I was actually watching the shoot last night where they were talking about Vince, and he said, look, everything to him is just business. Yeah. So he'll be like, oh, cut him, save money. And then he'll say, oh, how's it going the next, you know, and treat him great. But Vince, everything is just business, good or bad. And that's it. And
yeah, I think when they did the 24/7 on him that time or whatever it was, I think when he came back that time, and you could see when he met up with Vince and stuff like that. And I know sometimes a lot of the stuff is for the camera, but I think with that stuff it looked very genuine.
I thought that too. That really seemed like he was happy to see him, and it wasn't like, oh, there's a camera there, because I think Vince just doesn't really care at this moment. He just doesn't care. So it's like,
Vince said get the cameras out.
Yeah.
Look at the amount of people Vince has kind of fallen out with in the end. I mean, the Ultimate Warrior fucking held him to ransom in '92. You know what I mean?
Jeff Jarrett did as well.
And Jarrett did as well. I mean, he obviously had that Montreal thing. He's had lots of things, but when you see him with the guys in the end, some of them he genuinely does love. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's just, look, this is why billionaires, this is why we aren't billionaires, guys, because we probably don't have that gene where you can just cut people off, not think twice about it, and then not understand why they have an issue with it. You know what I mean?
It's the psychopath gene. That's So.
Sociopath or psychopath, whatever one you want to call it. Probably a bit of both.
But that's it, and look, you can't hold that against them. I would say, look, if it wasn't for Vince Angle, we wouldn't be talking about Kurt Angle. We wouldn't be talking about, as good as his TNA career was, he got the TNA career because we got his WWF career, WWE career. So, hate him as much as you want, but he's the reason why wrestling is what it is, for good or bad.
In kind of closing up here, for all the little kind of smart marks out there, call the ones that just love going on Twitter and love kind of just ripping into people just for the sake of it because it makes them feel cool. There would be no podcast. There would be no wrestling. There would be no wrestling podcast from anyone. There'd probably be no wrestling in Ireland, really, if it wasn't McMahon. So let's really kind of look at it as black and white as it is. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It would be still a
I just felt looking at that comeback, it was like nearly his son returning from war or something like that.
That's what it felt like. Yeah. That's what it felt like. Yeah. And apparently, lads.
Yes, great show.
Apparently, lads, he's that high up on AJ as well.
Really?
Yeah. Apparently, he loves AJ Styles. So it's like.
Well, that's a good thing because let's be honest. I mean, I was never a huge AJ fan in TNA. I wasn't. Sorry.
I'm a huge.
But Jesus, he's there's no denying the man's talent. So rightly so, he should be, and hopefully he stays where he is, not buried alive. But,
But he's dead.
He's dead. Yeah. Well, the OC are never coming back anyway, so take or finish those off.
Too soon.
Too soon. Nah, still.
Yeah. But I guess I'm kind of, as we said, we're closing up here on this one. What about a lot of people feel indifferent and some feel very, very angry that Kurt's last match was with Baron Corbin.
I'm more upset that it's with Baron Corbin when he's dressed like a barman.
Yeah, I'm upset that
what? Come on, what are you doing? But look, it sells. Look, this, Ian. You go out on your back.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you had to go out to someone. So
he did the honours for Corbin, didn't he? Did he pick him? No, I don't think he picked him, did he?
No, he didn't pick him. Yeah. Did he pick him? Did he pick him?
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, I
heard he had picked Baron Corbin, and I also heard that he had suggested to Vince that he didn't want it made a big deal. He just wanted to rip it off.
Well, look, then we can't.
Didn't want to be a big incident.
Then we can't be upset by it. We can't be upset by it.
The reason I asked that question was because I thought that was a nice way to close, and it shows what kind of man Kurt Angle is. That he felt that he owed the company that.
But we've said this throughout this whole podcast. His career is making dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Legitimately, that's what he did. So compared to there's some guys who haven't, a lot of guys who haven't, but Edge, Samoa Joe, Brock Lesnar, AJ Styles, John Cena, Baron Corbin was the only one he had left, so fucking go for it, why not?
I suppose when you look at it as well, if he had to pick someone that he had previously worked with, it might have been a kind of a slide on the body of his career, his work.
Maybe,
because who would he pick? Does he pick John Cena, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Undertaker, Austin? Who do you pick in that body of work? So he probably kind of had to go for someone new.
Yeah, and look, it's a match that I don't really care about. It is what it is, but look, he had nothing to prove at that point. It was like, okay, fair enough. Someone has to take you out, and you have to take the loss because that's what you do. Yes, but it just is what it is. You
can tell by his emotion and all that he wanted it to be low key. It wasn't something he wanted. He didn't want a big deal made of it. He didn't
want the Shawn Michaels or the Ric Flair treatment. He just wanted it gone. That was it. So fair enough.
Well, I guess a great way to finish, guys, would be to kind of do a little quick fire round, actually.
Yep.
And see where would you guys put Kurt in your all-time top, say 10, and let's have a couple of quick words as to why he's in there. I'll go first if you want.
Yep.
Kurt is in my top 10, especially recently, kind of rekindling my fucking love for the man. And I would say he's very high up in that top 10 list. Like really, really high, as in up in the top 3. I think he has every reason to be in that top echelon because of his work in the ring, his character work, and C, because of what he done outside of the ring before he got into wrestling too. Because I'm a big fan of amateur wrestling anyway.
Yeah.
So to see that, to see what he's done and transition and not just become good but become great, I would have Kurt in my top 10 for sure.
Right.
I'll go next. I don't mind. I've actually met Kurt Angle once when he was coming through the airport, and he was a gentleman. And like they always say, never meet your heroes. I'm lucky that when I've met the few people who consider, up there, they've been nice. He was one of them. He would definitely be in my top 10. Maybe just outside the top 5. I don't know. He could be definitely in there. But everything I watched with that, everything that Kurt Angle did, I enjoyed. And that's all you want from wrestling. I enjoyed it. Whether it was the comedic stuff, whether it was the serious stuff. And as I said, I look back at the real intense stuff he did in TNA, and always my favourite parts of the TNA was when Angle was involved. So all I want is to enjoy wrestling, and everything he did, I enjoyed it. Remember when he sorry to go on about. Remember when he got the head shaved first, and he had the wrestling cap and the wig. Oh, brilliant! And there you go. That's what you want with a wrestler. You want to be remembering things, happy times, enjoyment. That's what it's for.
Wasn't he hanging outside a cage with that on once, and they had him by the hair?
Yeah.
So there you go. Yeah, he's definitely in my top 10, and he could very, very well be in my top 5.
Yeah, good show. Niall?
Yeah, he'd be definitely in my top 10. But I would say probably only just about. But the problem there is I've been watching wrestling for 40 years. So I probably have a broader spectrum of top 10 compared to the rest of you guys.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, but he definitely will be in my top 10. There's no doubt about that. But when you're talking about growing up with Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair and guys like that and all, and different eras and different comparisons and all that kind of stuff, it's very difficult to put a top 10 together.
Yeah.
I mean, I would rate him equally as good as anyone that I equally admire in my top 10 as well. So I don't have a top 10. I probably have 10 top ones.
See,
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, that's a very fair way of looking at it.
Is that you were a kid growing up in the era that you were watching the likes of the Ric Flairs and the Dusty Rhodes, so obviously nostalgia is going to play a big part in that too, versus when you're watching it as a
I don't think most of the times when I compile these things or I think about it, it's not so much nostalgia. Like when you think of the Ric Flairs and the Dusty Rhodes, and I mean last week we spoke about Nikita and stuff like that when you did the other podcast, stuff like that. Like for me, those guys that I kind of pick out as guys that I like and guys that I rate very highly, I think their body of work stands up, even though some of it is memories from my childhood. But I think anyone these days would have to put a Ric Flair or a Dusty Rhodes in their top 10. Well,
I definitely have Flair in my top 10.
Well, a lot of people these days that will put top 10s together will just do it because it's the right thing to do. You know what I mean?
See, that's the thing. I would not have them in my top 10 because I don't have the emotional attachment to them.
You see, Darragh, you're an honest wrestling fan. There you go. See,
it's like why would I lie?
Yeah, no, but the problem for me when I'm compiling a top 10 is kind of I'm doing it over 4 decades.
That's the thing. Yeah, that's it.
So I kind of only have maybe 2 or 3. You know what I mean? Each decade kind of thing to fit in.
Yeah.
So it's not like, I mean, it's a very hard one to call. As I said to you, like I when people ask me who my favorite wrestler is, I just look at them and I go, "Well, I love wrestling." You know what I mean? I don't, you know what I mean? Like I've always liked Triple H. I've always liked Shawn Michaels. You know, but like I've always liked the Honky Tonk Man. You know what I mean? Like, how do you compile who your favourites are and your top ones are? You know what I mean? It's
where's Bret Hart?
No, as I said already before, you see, it was difficult for me because
I'm joking.
Yeah. I always was a British Bulldog fan, and that's all I'll say.
Oh,
you're right. There's only one British Bulldog, and his name was Tom Billington, Dynamite Kid. You're right.
Here we go again.
Well, look, I'll round it off there, and I'll just say, whenever you say where does X, Y, and Z fit in your top 10, there's Triple H and everybody else. So that's me being honest. But
I like Triple H, by the way, guys. I do.
You don't like Triple H?
No, I do.
After that.
I do like Triple H.
But to answer the question, where does Kurt Angle sit? Kurt Angle is under Jericho in my top 10, right? Because
that sounded very sexual at first.
It's dirty mind.
Under Jericho,
sexy Kurt.
But no, he would be like wherever Jericho is in the list, Kurt is just underneath him, man. It's not because one's better than the other. It's just because of the malleability. I think Jericho, because he's able to change himself so much, he beats Kurt out that. But Kurt has those modes that you just can't deny. So that's why. But he would definitely be in my top 10. He's either in my fave 5, to borrow Booker T's, or just outside my fave 5. Because Booker T has like 20 people in his fave 5, so I'm allowed to do it too.
You're going to have to set up a campaign for the Four Podmen to get Darragh unblocked from Chris Jericho.
No, from Fozzy. It's just from Fozzy's band. Like, I'm like, that's all, not Jericho's personal account.
You're holding on to that it wasn't Jericho's personal.
No, it wasn't, so it's okay. But his band hate me for some reason. I'm like, it was a bad review once, okay?
They're not missing out on much, in fairness.
No, but come on.
With Chris Jericho, it depends on when you meet Chris Jericho.
Fair.
Whether he likes you or not.
That's fair. But for the record, I am a Fozzy fan. That album was terrible, and I just gave it a bad review, so that's why I'm blocked.
Which album was that?
It was the one with the ABBA cover on it, and that was the best song on it.
Do
you want to start a war? I think that was it. Yeah.
I like that album personally.
Yeah, it was okay, but it wasn't great. You know.
Can I get a follow, Chris?
Hey, just one thing before we go. Sorry, I know we keep going on here. Kurt Angle's music was great, wasn't it?
It was.
It was actually the Patriot.
Yeah.
But
right. It worked. It worked.
Yeah, it suited Kurt just as much as it did the Patriot.
But not only that,
the Patriotisms in this is ridiculous. Look at Niall smiling. The Patriot was only brought in for one person.
And there's another idea for a show, maybe somewhere down the line, is the importance of entrance musics.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
In a career,
I would be interested in that.
I would really like to do that. Actually, yeah, I think that's one that I would heavily support.
Can anyone answer the question where the first entrance music came from?
Cannot. Tell us.
I believe it was actually Gorgeous George, as far as I know.
That would make sense, though.
Yeah, it would make sense. The theatrics of
it. Obviously, Hogan was the one that brought it to the bigger spectrum, and then obviously Flair got onto it with the,
But that's for another podcast, then.
Fair. Let's put a pin in that.
A warrior.
Yeah.
And just we could have a really good podcast.
You've some editing job here to do now, Darragh.
No, not really. It's all good.
He's drowning in that pill.
There's a few bits. Well, we'll just call it a day until next week. I mean, for me, it's been a great chat about Kurt Angle and reminiscing.
Absolutely.
Some of the amazing moments in that man's career, and great to see him enjoying life now too. I mean, you see him active on Instagram, so much so that he even liked their post about this particular show. So
wow, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah,
it was nice of Kurt to do that. But it's great to see him.
Hopefully he liked the podcast. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, come here. What's the bets he'll end up in AEW with Rusev as a manager?
Or on Dynamo's dozen?
Well, only you can do that.
Yeah.
Only Dynamo can start that one out.
Or just underneath Jericho again.
Hey!
Oh.
Hey!
Oh man. Well, there you go.
I suppose until next month, you've been the listeners. We've been the shy talkers, I guess, on this one. But it's been.
We better come up with some more topics for the next one. Actually,
I'm thinking.
We won't say just yet, will we?
I'm thinking Eddie Guerrero only lost out by 2%. I think it would be a disservice not to throw him in the hat for something. What do you think, guys?
What I'd like to do is any topic that loses out, kind of, we could come back to them again later down the line.
How about the Radicals, the career of the Radicals?
You see, if you're talking about the Radicals, it's only the Radicals in WWE.
You could just do that then, and then that way you get through them, and then we just don't talk about the bad stuff with Benoit. It's fine.
I take it we're not in the podcast now. That's gone.